Greetings and welcome. This is day 3, the final day of our Sent seminar. We are grateful that you are joining us this morning and those who have been journeying with us since Thursday. We're grateful to be able to gather again on this final day to continue to engage the conversation of social entrepreneurship. Again, Sent has always been a space of equipping, educating, networking, and inspiring those who feel called to respond to the cries of God's people in their own local context. We are grateful for all of the practitioners. We're grateful for those who are imagining and beginning to discern how God may be calling them to respond to the needs in their social context. We remember that social enterprise, although it may seem like a new term, and perhaps it is a new term, but it's not a new thing. As we've learned, people of color, people on the margins have been doing this work for centuries, as they have responded to the very real felt needs of their community, feeling called by God to respond, to make a way forward, to raise new questions, to create social change and transformation. So social enterprise in and of itself is an entity or an organization that exists to solve a social need. And this is sacred work. This is the work of the church. I know some may perhaps hear social enterprise as something that somebody may do on the side as people of faith, but I hope what we've gathered through our time together is that the work of the church, the work of God's people, is always to take seriously the concerns of those on the margins, those whose backs are against the wall, those who are pushed to the side. And this morning, we are happy to invite a local practitioner, as Ashton and I both live in Houston, Texas. And this is a contemporary practitioner, Reverend Rudy Rasmus, who you'll hear more about momentarily. As it has been my custom for the last few days, I keep forgetting to introduce myself at the top of the call. I'm Reverend Darnell Fennell. I serve as the Director of Social Entrepreneurship, and I'm elated and excited to be able to join you all this morning in our last day. So I will now turn things over to my colleague, Reverend Ashley Mayhem.
Good morning. Yes, we're thrilled to have you on our third and final day. As Darnell said, I am the Social Entrepreneurship Program Coordinator. My name is Reverend Ashley Mayhem. And as you heard, today's session, we hope is a bit practical, that you get a tangible expression and understanding of what faith-rooted social enterprise is, what that looks like in day-to-day life, beyond just the theory. We've heard a lot of wonderful presenters over the last couple of days and the rest of today that are giving you tools and theoretical information in how to do this important work that you are called to. But we hope that today you get a glimpse into the journey and the experience in life of a current practitioner. And so we're so thrilled and happy to have Reverend Dr. Rudy Rasmus join us, a local for Darnell and I, Houstonian. He is an author, a humanitarian, a leadership consultant with a passion for outreach to the world's most challenged communities. He pastors the St. John's Church in downtown Houston with his wife, Juanita Rasmus. In 1992, pastors Rudy and Juanita founded the Bread of Life, Inc., a nonprofit that has truly changed the landscape of downtown Houston by serving, at the time, 500 hot meals, now more than that, per day to those who are housing displaced for over 2 decades. And currently, the organization distributes more than 2 million pounds of fresh produce annually to 2,000 families. And their agency partners with other organizations, and their impact is strong and life-giving and profound. And so we're really excited and grateful to hear of his experience and just the process of what this journey has looked like for him. And I gladly and humbly turn it over to Reverend Dr. Rudy Rasmus.
Hey, it's good to be with y'all today. It's good to hang out with you. And I'm really honored to be a part of this experience. You guys are my heroes, and I am just really excited to share with my new friends in the market. It's Houston has been an interesting town, and it has been a phenomenal journey for me to get to to this juncture where I am. I like the term that Revs used for my workshop session, contemporary. I really like that. It's I am contemporary for sure. I consider myself at 65 years old, the world's oldest millennial. I think more like a millennial than I do a boomer, for sure. But every now and then I'll just kind of leak into some boomerism. But you know, it's just really good to be with you. You know, I always like to start anytime I'm with a group, especially a group that I haven't encountered before. I like to start with this picture. This picture is me at 8 years old. Notice the size of those glasses, huge. But when I was 8, I saw the world in a unique way, and that uniqueness has not changed. This 8-year-old lived in Houston, Texas, and drank from a colored-only water fountain, used the colored-only restroom in public facilities until he was 12 years old, which means marginalization was a part of my early experience in life, of which I never understood. It never settled with me, the differentiation that happened between people groups, because I could never really figure that whole concept. You know, so much so, you know, when I would have to drink from that separate water fountain marked for colors only, I would ask my mom, so Mom, what's different about the water coming out of that other water fountain? Every now and then I would sneak a drink out of that other water fountain, only to discover that it was the same water, which meant there was something else going on. I'm gonna tell you really a quick story. The one place that I found unity wasn't at church. I didn't really understand the powerlessness of religion in my childhood, but one place that I saw was powerful was the Houston Zoo. Now you might say, why was the Houston Zoo considered powerful? Well, I would have my mama take me to the Houston Zoo on a regular basis for one reason, because in the middle of the zoo was this big ceramic lion head fountain. Huge, the thing was huge. And you could, if you drank out of the lion head fountain, you would literally drink by putting your head in the lion's mouth. The one thing that fascinated me about that lion head fountain was there was only one at the Houston area zoo. And every kid from every background, neighborhood, and hue lined up to drink from that one fountain. Yeah, so the zoo got it right before the church did. And I didn't forget that. And I ultimately left church when I was 12 years old. And basically when I could vote for my own direction, I stepped out, never, and didn't come back until I was 36 years old. So you can imagine from 12 to 36, a lot can happen, and a lot did. When I think about the process of coming into this life as a social entrepreneur, when I think about the life that I have evolved into as a result of my early life's experiences, and even my journey as I have moved in through life, I realize it's not necessarily our gifts that bring us to this work of social change. It's often our pain that brings us to this path. When I think about the challenges that I have experienced in my life that ultimately brought me to a place where I wanted to serve, to see change happen, I then also discovered that it wasn't, necessarily that I had, so many gifts that led me to this, but it was definitely some pain that brought me to this place, and I respect it and I honor it today. And this kind of brings me to helping us this morning identify just what kind of social entrepreneur are we? I know, at this point in my life, I kind of know how I move in and around these spaces, but I want you to just take a look at just three expressions of social entrepreneurship that I have moved in and out of in a typical year. We are not necessarily one of these or the other at any given time, but we can experience all of these in our sojourn to just really help the community around us become whole. Bricular is a social bricular is really the entrepreneur that uses what's available. If you have vegetables and you take those vegetables to the community that you have identified as the community that needs vegetables, then you have used what's available, like bricolage is from the original word, but you have used what's available to impact change in your local experience. The other is the social constructionist, and we think about how the constructs in life evolve, how those constructs manifest. We're reminded that social constructs, race is a construct. I mean, when we see how the evolution of race became to what we see right now, and the tension is unbelievable, we realize that there is something else happening to signal differentiation between lighter skinned people, darker skinned people, people from one region, people from another region, people from one religion to another religion, people that were experiencing life in one way to people experiencing life in another way. And we look at these social constructs, we realize that the constructionist as a social entrepreneur will use these social constructs to impact life in their context. Well, for sure, how policy shapes the world that we live in, how religious tradition and polity shapes the world that we live in. We realize that when we look at traditional policy reforms as constructs, we also see the evolution of the prison industrial complex and how that complex incarcerated millions of people for many years based on a policy. Now those policies change and life changes. And as we see life changing, we know that there must be something else going on in and around that. But what happens when we, the social entrepreneurs, take that particular system and use it for community impact? And that's what I do when I engage my my political representatives, when I talk to them about the need for policy change, the need for decriminalizing homelessness or being unhoused. When we think about all of the things that are impacting people who in many cases have been muted because of their social and their economic predicament in our communities. Then social engineers, those are the revolutionaries, and social engineers in many cases will use disruption to bring about change in their context, which kind of brings me to some work that I have been studying. Stephen Kotler wrote a book entitled Bold several years ago. As a matter of fact, kind of at early as disruption began to manifest as a real shift for some entire industries, Kotler began to look at what he called the 6 Ds of exponential change and how those 6Ds can and will impact life as we know it. Well, this is what happens when something is digitized. That means change is happening so quickly that in many cases it goes unnoticed. One example Kotler uses in his book was the story of Eastman Kodak. We know Kodak. Well, many of you might not remember film in a camera, okay, and taking the little yellow tubes of film to the area pharmacy and getting those films of tube developed. Well, Eastman Kodak had gotten very comfortable over many decades of controlling a 90% market share of both camera and film. And then all of a sudden, the digital world began to explode. And before we knew it, there was a whole computer in our hands that was taking photos with more megapixels than anything on the market had ever produced. So watch this. When digitalization is occurring in and around a concept, a product, a service, then what happens initially is that it goes unnoticed, right? Deception, we call it the deception period, when it goes unnoticed. How about home sharing? Home sharing went unnoticed until it became an explosion through a corporate movement. How about ride sharing? Many of us have taken taxis before. I haven't seen a taxi on the streets of Houston. I can't remember when, but I can go on my phone and hit an app and watch this and I can see how far that vehicle is from me, and I can see, well, what happened during this time, during this disruption, an entire economy shifted. What happened? Money left the taxi industry. It dematerialized. You needed fewer taxis because fewer people were using it. And then the democratization of that service began to shift and change the way we access a ride. Now, when democratization occurs in social change and social impact, imagine what happens when what was let's say a government process, something that the government was responsible for, and ultimately abdicated that responsibility to change agents, to social entrepreneurs in community. And when that happens, when the democratization occurs, that's opportunity for you and I to step into our place as change agents in our community. And the key is finding what should be happening in our community that's not happening right now. And when we do so, we can make some significant change. Now I'm going to give you a little timeline as I talk through this morning's presentation of kind of how these disruptions and the subsequent evolution of services have evolved in our community here in downtown Houston. And it begins for me in 1992 when my wife and I became sort of the leaders in this particular place. It was a church, but at the time I was just making steps towards Christianity. I had been a Christian all of a year and a half when we started here, just assisting our parent church, Windsor Village, down the street. So we were here, and as soon as we got here, we realized that something was needed. And how did we realize? We looked around. I mean, we noticed what was happening in the community around us. This is what happened. So I get the keys to the building one day. My pastor gave me the keys. I got in my car. I drove down town to the church. When I drove up on the curb, I noticed about 40 or 50 homeless, unhoused folk who were hanging out, and I discovered later that they were waiting on a group that would come in from the suburbs and bring a hot meal to the parking lot of this church that we that was just driving up to check out. And immediately, I knew I had made it to the place. I just knew immediately that this was the place where I was supposed to serve. So much so, the moment I drove up and looked around and saw all of the folk standing around who also slept around the church, I called my wife and I said, baby, this is the place. And from that moment, we knew we were here to serve. Now we started serving. We moved in, started a weekly worship service, and also started serving a hot meal once a week. And before we knew it, we were serving 500 hot meals a day, 7 days a week, 364 days a year. And we continued with that for about 20 years. That was a lot of food. Now, we actually served it in the room I'm sitting in right now. This is, I'm sitting in the sanctuary at St. John's in downtown Houston. And the pews in this room actually were used and have been used as the dining room table for thousands of my unhoused neighbors for many, many years. And we served a lot of food in this place. You know, the one thing that we realized that, while we were serving that hot meal, there was a need for that hot meal. There were people who were actually living on the streets and hungry. All right. And we couldn't just hold that thought right there. And then, also in 92, HIV/AIDS had really been devastating the community, especially the Black community. So what we did in 92, we just kind of created an initiative to start providing testing and counseling for HIV. Discovered that there was a whole community that the church world had marginalized, had disenfranchised, and subsequently didn't want much to do with. So much so when people were dying as a result of AIDS, there were churches in the city, in Houston, the fourth largest city in the country, that would not provide a place for their funeral because they had AIDS, because they died from AIDS. Well, we stepped into that space and became a place where people could pass on in dignity and be funeralized with dignity as well. So remember, hot meal and HIV services. And we did that for a long, long time, 20 years, from 1992 to really more than that, 6 years on the hot meal. And in on my slide, you see the Savior syndrome, and this is a sneaky syndrome that I have been guilty of, I guess, victim of along the way. And when I think about this syndrome, I have a question, and that is, can there be an expression of social entrepreneurship or missional leadership that conceives of social change without a nostalgic reference to the messianic, sovereign, or heroic entrepreneur? And that is a question I just want you to think about for a moment, because I, in my 29 years in serving the community, have been guilty of all of those, right? All of those, messianic, sovereign, and the heroic entrepreneur. Yeah, I raised $100 million along the way for a lot of causes. And in the midst of raising that money and creating, change in the community, every now and then that ego, it'll just creep into my ego. What an amazing person I am. That's the one thing that if I could encourage you to just kind of be aware of what's happening around you, then I would say, being aware of not becoming the heroic entrepreneur, not becoming messianic in your endeavor, and not becoming sovereign. Man, I'm telling you, those are hard. That's some difficult stuff. But what it also does, it also keeps one from knowing when it's time to stop. Okay. So we were serving that hot meal and discovered that there was a decreasing demand for the hot meal. Well, in that process, we had failed because of our sovereignty in this space of providing this meal. Just really forgot that that everything changes, and as things change, we should also think about whether or not there is still a need for that particular service. What happened to us with HIV was, we providing this service for many years. As a matter of fact, raising lots of support to provide those services. And then drug therapies changed the way people live with AIDS. Ultimately, we had to change. I think about how we evolve this mission, how we evolve this process, and I just want to kind of lead you through something that we do here, and we have done here for quite some time. And number one, and this is how you can test your specific vision for a particular area of outreach in the community that you have identified or designated as the place to be. One, a dream. And I'm a dreamer. You can tell by the size of the glasses and the size of that kid's eyes in those glasses at 8 years old. I am indeed a dreamer. But something we have learned is to ask the question, does and can it bring life to me? How many times have I met social entrepreneurs, change agents in community who are miserable serving? And it's because it maybe in a way you have ended up in an area of service that doesn't bring life to you. That somehow might have been a dream that took a turn that wasn't the expected turn that you were anticipating as you moved into that area. And then, of course, we look at discovery and how will it impact the world around me. And then dialogue is, will it require God's help? And here's the challenge. I've learned along the way, that you can take on a great idea and a task, but it's really just a great task if you can just do it by yourself. But the task that requires you to enlist your higher power, the task that is so expansive that it requires you to collaborate with those around you to make it happen, as a result of also asking your higher power to join you in that effort, brings me to delivery, which is the essence of asking the question, is there some good in this effort for others? And how often have I seen social and spiritual entrepreneurs move into to areas of change that, you know, it might have been a dream, but somewhere along the way it got off track. And when we think about getting off track, man, that's when the challenges for any vision can ensue. And I'm gonna tell you, I have gotten off track many times. That's why I can talk about it. I'm not just telling you what I think is a good thing to tell you. I'm telling you something that's really happened to me over the years. Matter of fact, this particular initiative, the St. John's Academy. You know, when I really think about how we moved into this area, you know, it's really it was an interesting moment in the journey here. 2000, about 21 years ago, we moved into an area that really society was calling for it. So there were families that were impacted by HIV/AIDS. There were families with dependent children who, in many cases, though dependent children, you know, needed some specialized care. So what we did here, starting really around '97, we started raising funds to build a school building, to create a public school for children who were infected or affected by HIV/AIDS. Now think about the challenge in the mid '90s, late '90s, into the 2000s. We built this school, raised about $7 million, built a nice building, started the initiative, had 150 students per day, from newborn to first grade. We were doing early childhood development. We had partners. The Houston Independent School District was one of our partners. And along the way, we, you know, it was a phenomenal experience. But one day, the world changed as it relates to HIV/AIDS. New drug therapies came into being. Fewer babies were being born positive, HIV positive. Mothers and fathers, the parents were living more empowered as a result of new drug therapies. And we found ourselves in a place of change, but struggled with the change. Once again, you know, here we are at a juncture, and we just really could not let it go, even though the world around us had began to send notice that, hey guys, I don't think we need the same level of care for this particular demographic. Okay. But we couldn't let it go because we had invested $7 million in this building that we really liked. Okay. And sometimes we can attach to fear and failure and misinterpret the role of fear and failure in our sojourn. Let me tell you how, just a segue, quick segue. So as you dream, remember the sequence, okay, before you get to delivery. As you dream, and then sometimes as you experience, there are two passengers that are going to show up, and those are fear and failure. And those two passengers have a place in the journey with you. You know, I have been confronting my fears in many years in therapy. I've been in therapy for 35 years. Somebody said, wow, boy, you must really, yes, 35 years. And you know, because I have been mitigating trauma for a long time. Remember, it's not our gifts that bring us to amazing work. Often it's our pain and how we have manifested that trauma that we have survived. But for me, fear and failure have both been passengers. And the one thing that I really want to bring to your attention today is how we can mitigate this fear as we move through this process of social impact and social change. Now, here's the key: fear, and I have to kind of look at my notes on this because I want to make sure you get this. But fear really helps us to identify that it's time to step out of our comfort zone. Fear isn't there to stop you from stepping outside of your comfort zone. Fear is there to help you move through and outside of that comfort zone. And failure is a passenger to remind you to notice what you're noticing. Now, what I didn't really do when we built that building and really became attached to the work that we were doing inside of that building with young children who were either infected or affected by HIV, we lost sight. Now, ultimately, let me bring you to 2021. Matter of fact, 3 months ago. 3 months ago, we sold that building to a nonprofit that we are part of also, the Bread of Life. And now that building has become the headquarters for the Bread of Life and we're beginning to co-locate service providers that are providing services to the community in concert with our efforts in downtown Houston. So just because there is a challenge that you're facing as it relates to maybe holding on to a mission for longer than it should, realize that the greatest impact sometimes we can make in our service area is by making our missions obsolete. Temenos Housing, the big caption here is big risk equals big dividends, but also can be multiplied in big heartbreak. In the year 2006, Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast. My friend Tina Knowles Lawson called me and said she was interested in impacting homelessness as a result of Katrina, impacting the predicament of people who would move to the Houston area and would not have a place to live. I said, hey, let's get together and build a place. And we got a significant contribution from she and Beyonce and Solange Knowles. And subsequently, we built the Knowles Temenos Place apartments. It was our first housing development. We stepped out. It was a big risk. It yielded big dividends. And people who were unhoused, once we finished, had a place to live. Now, along the way, we continued to build. The picture that's the first one on your screen that the Knowles family helped us build, along with our city government, our county government helped us build that one as well. And then the second one, we moved into it in a big way. We raised about $10 million to build that building. Before we finished it, it cost us about $13 million to finish it. We had a crazy cost overrun. It caused us to leverage every asset we owned in the universe, and it put us in deep financial trouble. Now I'm getting ready to tell you about how big risk can yield big dividend, but it can also yield a huge heartbreak. In the midst of attempting to finish this building, we had a terrible contractor who was impossible to manage, had some corruption factors working as well. That cost overrun caused us to have many financial challenges across all of our nonprofits, all right, and put us in financial peril. So much so, this second building, so much so, at one point, we were about 90 days from complete insolvency. I mean, literally, we were 90 days from losing every building, every missional site, going completely bankrupt as a result of that particular building, and despair. And I don't know, who's listening to me today, but along the journey and the cycle of helping people, sometimes you can find yourself in a predicament that not only can your heart be broken in the process, but your spirit just devastated. And for me, as a result of the challenges that this particular project caused us, I felt a great deal of shame as well. So much so that about 3 weeks before Hurricane Harvey hit the Houston area, 3-4 weeks before the storm hit the Houston area, I remember contemplating one morning suicide. I was at the complete end of my rope. I had tried every possible convention to bring us out of financial peril, and all the while our financial predicament was just cascading towards complete disaster. That morning, I made a call. I called a dear friend who made another call, connecting me with my wife, who made another call, connecting me with my therapist that day, who saw me immediately that morning and talked me through a challenging moment, but also helped me to realize something that I believe had just gotten away from me over years of service. See, as a result of coming to this work out of my pain, what I also failed to realize was that I was serving out of that pain as well, and never really felt deserving of all of the good stuff that was happening around me. I'm gonna tell you, one thing she helped me to see that day, while sitting in our office, having contemplated taking my life earlier that day, she said, "Rudy, you've got to do this. You've got to claim your deserving." For those of you listening to me today, you're serving, or if you haven't already started serving, you will be serving, and along the way, it is easy to lose touch with yourself in the process of serving others. I did. From that day, I started claiming my deserving, and as a result, I began to make my way back. And as I made my way back, I began to build some new construct around how I served, and began to create a new mantra for myself, and that is, I deserve every wonderful thing that happens in my life. Well, speaking of wonderful, the building on the screen right now is our 4th housing project. It's under construction right now. If you drive by our campus, you'll see the construction underway. We raised $32 million for this project. It's going to house 100 currently unhoused individuals. In order to live here, you will have to have been homeless for at least a year, and it's going to be an amazing project of transformation for the people who will live there. Which brings me to a thought, and this thought is kind of important because for us as social and spiritual entrepreneurs, it's okay. Listen to me now. it is okay to look for both a return on the investment and a return to society, okay? You know, often we're only focused on the return to society. And as a result, we can really miss the fact that sustainability, that's a word, y'all. Sustainability is important in the framework of any social enterprise. You got to be able to pay the bills ultimately. You know, I have worked without getting paid before. I know how that feels, but along the way, we have to keep the cycle in perspective. Now, this graph is the Gartner hype cycle, and you can go to Gartner.com, I believe, and you can find more information on this cycle. But this cycle is real for every endeavor I have jumped into over the last 29, 30 years. This cycle has manifested in every last one of them. And I'm telling you, every last one of them. Watch this. And here's the cycle. The inspirational trigger hits you. You get that moment you said, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to make paper airplanes these paper airplanes are going to change. I got excited, y'all. Hit my doggone stand. They're going to change the world, right? These paper airplanes are going to change the world. That's the inspirational trigger. That's the moment when it can't be contained and you have got to go out there and you got to do it. Well, so the expectations, you see that slope? The expectations are sky high. I mean, just up there. Now, when you think about those expectations, you know in your mind and your heart, your paper airplanes are going to be the paper airplanes. They're going to make the difference for all the people out here who needed paper airplanes in their life, right? Expectation. Then here comes the trench of disillusionment. The trench of disillusionment. The trench of disillusionment hits in almost every social endeavor. I'm telling you, I've been out here doing this stuff for a long time, and this trench of disillusionment is important because it's the moment when reality orientation is starting to set in, okay, and you're starting to say, what? You mean everybody don't need a paper airplane? You mean somebody might reject the notion of my paper airplane? And then the slope of enlightenment. You begin to say, oh, just the folk who understand the need to fly will follow and join me in this revolution of paper airplane. Then the plateau of productivity hits, and you're doing your thing with paper airplanes until there is no longer any need for paper airplanes. Here's the key. When the trench of disillusionment hits, don't let that trench of disillusionment stop you from what you know you need to do. Don't let it stop you. Keep going. Yeah, because ultimately, the slope of enlightenment, the plateau of productivity will come. I'm telling you, I know. I've been there. I've done that. Remember, I just started yesterday. I've been through it. The stuff is over the years. It's been crazy, but it's been fun. 2017, that storm hit. We had been in the space of mitigating human disasters, one life at a time for many years since 1992. But when Harvey hit Houston, we discovered that there was a need for some social entrepreneurship in the area of disaster and pandemic recovery. Okay, 2017, we started with the disaster. Before we knew it, we were also in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have been blessed with the opportunity of curating partners and relationships amongst some amazing organizations and individuals over the years. For us, starting with Be Good, the Be Good Foundation, Beyonce on this platform where I'm sitting right now. Beyonce, when she was a teenager, used to sing in our choir here at St. John's, and told me when she was about 16 years old, she said, Pastor Rudy, when I make it, now remember what I said. She didn't say if I made it. She said, when I make it, I'm not going to forget you or the work that's happening here on this campus. And family, I'm telling you, she has not forgotten us over these years. In the midst of her amazing stardom and success, she has been one of our solid partners and has been just, really with us along the way. Now, will everyone have a Beyonce in their current? Well, you don't know. I tell people all the time, pray for the babies. You don't know, one of them might be Beyonce. I'm telling you, we prayed for the babies. Okay, they would come up. They would go to talent shows. She and Kelly and the others. They would go to talent shows, and we'd stop church and pray for them, pray for their success at the talent show. They never forgot that. No. And along the way, we have met through those relationships some other amazing partners. Matthew 25 Ministries out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Those folk are Procter & Gamble's primary social enterprise partner. Subsequently, they literally distribute $150 million worth of Procter & Gamble products around the world to areas who have been hit by disaster throughout the year. 150 million a year. In the midst of that, we became their partner, and they send between $3 and $4 million worth of product to us every year. Also along the way, Megan Thee Stallion and Rock Nation became our partner and have helped us in the challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, is our ongoing partner. His Start Small Foundation, Start Small LLC Foundation, has been right alongside with us as a significant partner. And we have seen the manifestation of those partnerships. This is kind of a picture of a vaccination event and a testing event. We are also funded by quite a few other foundations that are interested in health equity. Right now, it's vaccination equity, but there are a lot of areas of concern that are impacting the social determinants of good health. All of those: transportation, food, shelter, employment, how people exist in the world. And those are concerns also of major funders, of which we can see, how we can impact the world around us. This is a picture of our warehouse. It's a 20,000 square foot warehouse that we fill up every week and empty every week. Products from all over the country. We ship those products wherever there is need. From Houston, right now we have been shipping to Louisiana as a result of Ida, the impact there. We have partners in Haiti, and we have worked alongside of other areas that have also been impacted by disaster. This timeline, in terms of, we're looking beyond, and that's developing for-profit partnerships and initiatives for revenue stability in the future. We think about how and what sustainability really looks like in the future. And this is a sort of the mantra that we have embodied here to help move us into a more sustainable future. We have been up and down, y'all, over the years because funding comes and goes. How funders perceive certain challenges comes and goes. But here's the key: do what you can from where you are with what you have, right? And I'll add, and while you have an opportunity. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. And if you take this mantra, you can think about, your initiative will not look like my initiative. Your outreach into your community won't look like what we have done here, but it can make an impact. And as we think about how sustainability can emerge out of this, the key is don't be afraid. I mean, give it a try. Nothing beats failing like trying. And as we think about the future for us, we have decided to take what was the gymnasium that was our converted warehouse up until the time we expanded, and we're going to take that gymnasium and convert the gym into 40 residential dormitory style units. We're calling it the Jackson. It's going to be a launch pad for young adults who are aging out of foster care or found themselves homeless, between 18 and 24-year-old. And we're looking at how we can fund that initiative as we move forward. We've already taken the first step by putting the property in the hands of our nonprofit. That was a $4 million exchange. We borrowed that from a local bank to make it happen. We're not afraid to acquire some debt to change some lives. But this Jackson, this project is going to be able to change the lives and the trajectory of a lot of 18 to 24 to 26-year-olds. As a matter of fact, sometimes maybe 16-year-olds who are on the path to either human trafficking or to incarceration. And if you look at the statistics, too many young adults who at 18, at the moment they age out of foster care, don't have any place to go but to the streets. So our goal is to change that trajectory. That's kind of a floor plan. We're gonna take the gym, divided into 2 floors, put 20 units per floor, and see what we can do. And the next initiative will be more of an equity venture. We're calling it the Crawford because it's on Crawford Street. The Jackson is called the Jackson because it's facing Jackson Street, and that's a rendering of what we're going to build on a small vacant tract adjacent to the building I'm in right now, and that's going to be 120 units, and we're calling that student housing because we know how many people are students at Lone Star here in Houston and HCC and in other community college environments that don't have adequate housing to pursue their academic lives. Also, we're surrounded by U of H, TSU, St. Thomas, Houston Baptist, and students need affordable and decent housing. And we're going to do it right here as an equity venture that'll help us pay for some of our other missional activities. And that concludes kind of where I am on the, see if I can get to stop. Y'all see that? Okay. And thank you for hanging out with me this morning.
Pastor Rasmus, it's been definitely a joy to hang out with you this morning. We are blessed by your journey, and we're blessed by the wisdom that lives in your body and how generously you shared that wisdom with thus all of us gathered this morning. There are some questions that have been presented, and we want to invite those who are watching, whether Facebook Live, through Hoover, or through Zoom, to ask your question. This is a moment now where you're able to sit at someone's feet who has walked this path and is walking this path, for we learn by walking the path, and we want to celebrate all that you've learned. So there's one question that Ken Gregson raises, which is, how do you help core team members when they experience fear or failure?
Yeah. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I can't see you. You know, the one thing that we do here is, um, supporting one another in the midst of our human predicament is in large part in large part is the role of leadership. The fact is we all will encounter fear as a result of taking that step out of our comfort zones, and occasionally we will experience failure, but in the midst of that, what we also know, there we go, I can see you now. What we also know is, let's see if I can, there we go, thank you. What we also know is the power of our collective effort, and the fact that we never see ourselves in this context as sort of lone rangers. We are in this together. Plus, we prioritize therapy in our environment for those who are moving through, and in my own journey. I mentioned earlier that I've been in therapy for a long time, many years, and what I've been able to learn as a result of my own therapeutic process and my own therapeutic journey is that being able to having the freedom to look inside with some fearlessness and say, okay, that's what I've been through, that's who I am, but none of that defines me, is what we do together.
As questions, we invite you to still, speak those into the room. I'm curious because you've listed some big numbers in the funds that at different points in your journey and for different projects that you've been able to raise. And so I'm curious if you could speak to what that process was like, either with the fundraising or in developing these collaborative partnerships that scale this work forward, that allow for this to be more sustainable. What does that relationship building look like, practically speaking?
Matter of fact, I'll tell you a quick story. In 1994, I went to lunch with a wealthy Houstonian. At the end of lunch, that wealthy Houstonian asked me, he said, so Rudy, how can I help you? And I'm telling you, I was caught completely off guard. I had no idea this cat was going to ask me how he could help me. I'm thinking, hold up, you just asked me how? So then he taught me a lesson. Then he you know what he told me? He said, first of all, always be prepared to ask, and don't be afraid to ask. He said, you'd be surprised who might help you, and make the assumption people want to help you. So for the last, since 93, 94, I have gone into environments with the assumption that the people I'm talking to, whether they have means or not, want to help me. And if I'm passionate enough about the mission that I have been on, a mission that I'm pursuing, then I want that to be contagious, and I want to enlist those around me to be a part of this as well.
Thank you for that. As we think about questions, yesterday, actually, our speaker, Dr. Yolanda Norton, invited each and every one of us to consider the importance of being willing to ask the system difficult questions. So I know that you are definitely a change agent in this city, and I just want to invite you maybe to share about a time here locally where you've had to ask the powers that be some challenging questions.
Yeah. Woo, man. So the reality is we regardless to where you might be politically, if you are involved in the lives of people who have significant needs, you will be a social constructionist, which means you will have to at some point find yourself in the midst of policy and how policy is made. Here locally, I tell you, here locally, I think I might have lost 1,000 members in 3 months on this particular initiative. But the HERO ordinance came through Houston, right? The Houston Equal Rights Ordinance. 14 people groups were impacted as a result. 14 people groups were impacted as a result of that ordinance. In terms of, but the group who decided that it wasn't an ordinance for Houston decided to focus on one of the 14 people groups, the trans community. That particular ordinance, my wife and I believe very much in equal rights for everyone, and really became the only clergy of color to support that ordinance. I'm telling you, man, even my mama said, baby, I'm gonna have to find me another church. All right. But along the way, so you have to, this is cliche, but you got to stand for something, and in the midst of it, we are social constructionists, and we are revolutionaries. And the only way change really comes about is that we use our influence, our relationships and connections to power, and we advocate for those who don't have it. And at the end of the day, that's my job, So connecting those dots, leveraging every relationship, in my 65 years. And remember, I can get you everything from on the streets of Houston, from tomatoes to prosthesis. I don't, you tell me what you need, I can get it, because I got, I've been on the streets a long time, I've just been in church a little while. So all of that experience today is now used for the betterment of the world around me.
I think we got room for maybe one more question. We'll pause here for a second if there's any other question before we begin our transition here.
So while we wait for a question, if one doesn't appear, I have one, knowing that we have in this virtual space pastors, some who are imagining how they use their space for innovation. And you've given a lot of examples on things you all work on, which is involving the space, right? The sanctuary space, reconverting space. And I'm wondering how your congregation, how you've led them to rethink space. Have you had challenges to, we shouldn't do this to the space because this is the sanctuary, right?
Yeah. I'm reflecting right now. 4 Ghanaian leaders were here with me this past week, and this particular session we were doing in the sanctuary, and we were eating sandwiches and drinking soda and stuff, So they walked into the room and they stopped about 4 pews from the front, and they said, "We can't eat in here." I said, "Yeah, you can eat in here." I said, "We have eaten in here every day, 500 times a day for about 25 years. We have slept in here many cold nights in Houston. I mean, we have danced in this joint. All right, we have partied in here. You can eat in here." So I said that to say this, though. There are people who will worship the doggone carpet. I mean, I'm telling you, they're gonna say, "Oh no, this is a sacred carpet. We cannot desecrate the carpet." But I say, I'm constantly saying, "Oh yes, we can," because this is just a room. The temple is really in us. And this expression, this is cool now. This is a great room. But I'm telling you what we're getting ready to do to this room. We're taking this room right now and we're converting the sanctuary to a coffee shop, because right now this building is empty 6 days a week. Has been, except for the meal program we used to serve in here. There's no longer a need for the meal program. So we're going to take the back and turn it into a coffee shop, and we're going to take the room itself. So coffee by day, and by night, we're going to turn the room itself into what we call Sanctuary Live. It's going to be an event, a music event venue. Now somebody's saying, y'all going to hell. I'm telling you, you're going to go straight to, but I'll tell you what, we're going to help some people with the proceeds. Yeah, sure are. Yeah, you're gonna always have what I call resistors, seasoned resistors. Folk who really know how to use their negativity to impact the forward move towards change. You scared of them, you ain't gonna get nothing done. I have more people who used to be members here than the average church will ever see, because of my lack of regard for their fears as to who's going to be sitting next to them. So the key is you just got to move forward, use what you have, and make the change you can for good.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Rasmus. It's so good and inspiring to be with you and to hear more of St. John and Bread of Life's journey and the impact and what that's looked like, practically speaking. So we're so grateful for your time here. We're grateful for those of you who've joined us live and who are coming back at a later time to view this. We pray that it is inspiring. Just a couple of quick details before we send you off. This is our last time where we're gathered collectively in one space. And so we want to send you off in joy and peace and inspiration. But the last couple of items, if you have heard us speak about the 2022 social entrepreneurship cohort, and it's still in the back of your mind, and you feel that nudged by the spirit, you feel called to do something, this has been such an incredible journey to watch our current cohort and see the ways that they've grown, the ways they've come alongside each other. We really want to encourage you to apply for the 2022 social entrepreneurship cohort. The other thing, as we've shared, if you have questions, ideas, anything of that nature, Darnell and my email addresses are in the chat, and you're welcome to reach out to us. But we have been so grateful for your time and your energy that you have shared with us. We know that 3 days is a long time, and we hope that this has been impactful. The recordings for all of these plenaries and workshops, you'll receive a document that has all of the links to each of those recordings so that you can go back, you can rewatch them, you can watch the ones that you missed. So as long as you registered, or as soon as you reach out and email Darnell or myself, we can get those recordings to you. But we thank you for your time this morning, and we are excited to see what unfolds in the last day of Ascent Seminar.
As we prepare to leave this virtual gathering space, I invite you to hear these words. We have been sitting on holy ground over the last 2 days in this virtual Ascent Seminar. We have been reminded that the old entities must die so that new discoveries can be made. May we do this important work of the church that is not simply a new thing, but a true thing. May we leave a legacy for people and in people.
Yes, and may we know our roots, ROOTS, honoring and lifting up the lives of Reverend Preston Taylor and Rosa Brown Bracey, Sarah Lou Bostic, AC Stone, Lorenzo Evans, so that we may know our root, Route. And may we say, yes, here I am, as Moses did when Yahweh called his name in Exodus 3. And may that open up the yeses for others.
May we be willing to risk asking uncomfortable questions of oppressive systems that benefit the powerful. May we lean into disruption that births innovation. May we learn from the OG biblical tricksters and birth new paradigms that bring the marginalized to the center and liberate the oppressed. May we be careful in our work to not fall into the savior syndrome. Remember, it's easy to lose touch with ourselves when serving. May we realize this work will require the help of God and the collaboration of others. May we go in peace. May we go together. Amen.